My name is Stella Harper. I'm 34 years old, and until recently, I believed that if you built your life carefully enough, nothing really collapsed without warning. Not overnight. Not without signs you could catch if you were paying attention. I work in operations for a regional healthcare company. My world is built on systems, timelines, contingencies. I don't guess, I don't improvise, I fix things before they become problems. Or at least I thought I did. Daniel Parker is 32, my boyfriend. Or he was. He's the kind of man people notice the second he walks into a room. Easy smile, effortless confidence, the kind that feels natural until you realize how intentional it actually is. He works in event management for a luxury hotel downtown, which fits him perfectly. Everything in Daniel's world revolves around image, presentation, control. We were together a little over 4 years. For the last year, he lived with me in my condo. The mortgage was in my name, the utilities were in my name. Most of the furniture had been mine long before he moved in. I'm not saying that to sound cold. I'm saying it because it matters later. Daniel was the kind of person who treated memories like currency. At first, it felt romantic. He kept everything. Concert tickets, printed photos, little receipts from road trips. He'd build playlists named after weekends we spent together, write captions on the backs of photos like they were artifacts from something sacred. It was sweet, until it wasn't. Because I started noticing something. He only brought up those memories when he wanted something. If we argued because he disappeared for hours without answering his phone, suddenly it became, after everything we've been through, this is how you talk to me? If I told him something he did hurt me, he'd say, I can't believe all our history means so little to you. If I asked for basic respect, somehow I became the one disrespecting what we had built. Memories were never just memories with Daniel. They were leverage. The breakup happened in late January. He sat across from me at my kitchen island, barely touching the coffee I made, and told me he needed space to find himself. He said our relationship had become too serious, too predictable. He said he loved me, but didn't know if he was still in love with me. And then he said something that stuck with me, not because it hurt, but because it was the first honest thing he'd said in months. I don't want you waiting around for me. So I didn't. He moved out over 2 weekends, took his clothes, his cologne, his framed photos, his speakers, and most of the bathroom products that had somehow taken over half the space. He left 2 storage bins in my hall closet and said he'd come back for them. I packed them neatly, labeled them, set them by the entry bench. He never came. The first month after he left was quiet in the worst way. Too much silence, too many habits with nowhere to go. I'd still reach for my phone to tell him something small and meaningless, and then remember there was no point. But by the second month, something shifted. I started sleeping again. Started running. Started cooking actual meals instead of eating takeout. Standing over the sink like my life had collapsed into something temporary. Work got better. I took on a bigger project. My director started looping me into meetings he used to leave me out of. I wasn't healed, but I was moving. Then came April. That Saturday had been completely normal. I cleaned the condo, did laundry, watched half a game, and went downstairs to grab a package. When I came back up, my phone lit up with a text. Daniel, I'm outside. Please don't be difficult. That was his tone. Not hi, not can we talk. A command, dressed in soft language. I didn't go downstairs. I opened my building's camera app instead. He was in the lobby, sitting in one of those fake leather chairs by the mailboxes, holding a white gift bag, and a photo album I recognized instantly. Blue linen cover. He made it for our 2nd anniversary. I stared at the screen for a long second before texting back. What do you need? His reply came almost immediately. If our memories meant anything, you'd let me come back. I remember staring at that message because something in my head clicked. Not sadness, not nostalgia, clarity. He didn't miss me. He missed access. Access to my space, my time, my life. A door he believed would always open if he knocked the right way. So I typed back. Memories aren't permission. Nothing else. No explanation. No emotion. Just that. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Came back again. Seriously, Stella? 4 years and this is it? I just need to talk face to face. I brought you something. I ignored all of it. Instead, I called the front desk. My ex is in the lobby, I said calmly. He is not a resident anymore. Please do not allow him upstairs. If he refuses to leave, I'd like that documented. There was a brief pause. Then, understood. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Wow, you had security remove me. That's cold. I checked the camera. He was standing now, talking to the concierge, gesturing with the album like it meant something. Then he set the white gift bag down on the side table and walked out without looking back. I waited 20 minutes before going downstairs. Inside the bag was exactly what I expected. Photos. Us at the lake. Us at a fall festival. Us sitting on the floor eating late-night takeout like it meant something bigger than it actually did. There was also my spare key. And a note. Cream-colored paper. Faint trace of his cologne. If you can look at these and feel nothing, then you were never the woman I thought you were. I didn't read it twice. Didn't hold the photos up to the light. Didn't let myself linger. I put everything back in the bag, took pictures of it, and placed it in the hall closet, next to the 2 storage bins he never came back for. That night, the messages started. Not from him. From other people. Stella, he's devastated. You could at least hear him out. And don't be heartless. You guys have history. History. Memories. Like they were legal documents. I blocked every number. At 11:40 p.m., Daniel sent one final message. One day, you're going to regret treating our memories like trash. I didn't respond. The next morning, I changed the garage code. Called a locksmith and paid $165 to rekey the deadbolt because suddenly, I didn't trust that the key he returned was the only one. Then I went for my run. Grabbed coffee. Started my Sunday like nothing had happened. But something had. Because that was the moment I knew this wouldn't end cleanly. Clean endings require both people to accept that the past is over. Daniel didn't want the past. He wanted control, dressed up as sentiment. And people like that don't walk away quietly. 4 days later, Daniel escalated from messages to staging. That is the only word I have for it. Staging. On Tuesday morning, I stopped at a coffee shop near work. It wasn't even our place. Not one of those little emotionally loaded locations couples accidentally turn into landmarks. It was just a coffee shop near my office, the kind of place you choose because the line moves fast and the parking is manageable. I ordered, turned around with my drink in hand, and there he was. Daniel, sitting near the window with a latte in front of him and that same blue photo album placed on the table like a prop. For 1 second, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so obvious. He looked up and widened his eyes like he had been surprised by fate. Stella, he said softly. Oh my God, I didn't know you came here. Sure. I kept my voice low. You need to stop showing up where I am. His eyes got wet instantly. Daniel was good at that. Not fake crying exactly. More like he knew how to turn emotion on at the precise temperature required to make other people uncomfortable. He touched the photo album with 2 fingers. I just thought if you saw everything, he said, you'd remember who we are. I looked at him across that little table, with sunlight cutting through the window behind him, and I felt the strange calm that comes when your heart finally stops arguing with your brain. I remember exactly who we were, I said. That's why I'm leaving. Then I walked out. He texted me before I even reached my car. So now remembering good things is a crime? Blocked. By Thursday, he had moved on to nostalgia bombing. That was what Trevor called it after I showed him the envelopes. 3 envelopes in 2 days. One had copies of movie stubs from our first year together. Another had a postcard from a cabin we rented in Tennessee with, "Remember this," written across the back. The third had a USB drive. I never plugged it in. I dropped it into a sandwich bag, wrote the date on the outside with a marker, and placed it with the rest of the evidence. Trevor is an attorney. Not technically my attorney then, but close enough to tell me when something stops being sad and starts becoming a pattern. We've known each other since college. He has that calm, blunt way of speaking that makes panic feel inefficient. He stood in my kitchen, looking at the envelopes lined up on the counter, and said, "Start documenting everything. Don't delete anything. Don't respond unless you absolutely have to." So I did. I created a folder on my desktop. Screenshots, camera stills, voicemail transcripts, dates, times, notes. It felt dramatic at first. Then it felt necessary. That same evening, Daniel tried the sympathy angle. At 9:18 p.m., I got a voicemail. His voice was shaky. He said he was parked outside urgent care alone, scared, and didn't know who else to call because I knew his medical history better than anyone. For 1 second, my body reacted before my mind did. That old reflex rose in me. Help him. Fix it. Go. Then I remembered something important. Daniel had a sister, 2 parents, friends, co-workers, an entire phone full of people who had not been told to stop contacting him. If he was calling me, it wasn't because I was the only option. It was because I was the option he thought he could still control. So I texted back, "If this is a medical emergency, call 911 or contact your family. No warmth, no cruelty, just direction." 20 minutes later, his sister Erin called me. I almost didn't answer. I'm glad I did. She sounded embarrassed more than angry. "Hey," she said quietly. I just wanted to let you know Daniel is fine. He twisted his ankle leaving a kickboxing class. He's being dramatic. I closed my eyes. Thank you for telling me. There was a pause. Then Erin lowered her voice. Off the record, this memory stuff is getting weird. He keeps saying if he can make you remember the good years, you'll stop being stubborn. I didn't say anything. She continued, softer this time. I told him memories aren't the same thing as a current relationship, but he's not hearing it. That helped more than she probably realized. An unexpected ally from his side. Saturday got worse. I had lunch with my mom, something we did every few weeks. We're close. Not in a controlling way, not in the kind of way where she fights my battles for me. Just close in the healthy adult sense. We had just ordered when her face changed as she looked at her phone. She turned the screen toward me. It was a Facebook message request from Daniel. I know Stella is hurting, but we have so many family memories. I thought you of all people would understand what we meant to each other. My mother read it once. Then she snorted. Absolutely snorted. And said no. Before I could stop her, she typed back. Family memories are not a key to my daughter's home. Do not contact me again. Sent. Blocked. I love that woman. Sunday night, Daniel came to the building again. This time, he didn't sit in the lobby. He waited in his car across the street. I know because the camera caught him walking up just after 10 p.m., carrying a framed photo from our trip to Asheville. He set it against my door and left. The picture was of us on a mountain overlook, smiling in windbreakers, back when I still thought being chosen meant being safe. I photographed it exactly where he left it. Then I took another picture of the camera timestamp. Then I carried the frame downstairs and handed it to the concierge. He sighed. This is the second time this week, he said. We're keeping an incident log now. That phrase mattered later. Incident log. It sounded so cold, so official, but that was what I needed. Not feelings. Records. By then, work was actually going better than it had in months. I oversee software rollouts for a regional healthcare company, and my manager had just told me I was being considered for senior operations lead. A bigger team. More money. More responsibility. The exact kind of thing I would have downplayed when Daniel and I were together, because any shift of attention away from him became a problem. Now I had room to care about my own life again. I also started going to a Thursday running group. Nothing dramatic. Just movement, air, new people. The kind of quiet rebuilding nobody claps for because it doesn't look cinematic. That was where I met Ethan Cole. Not in a romantic way at first, just someone easy to talk to. He was 31, worked in commercial interior design, and had this calm way of listening that made me realize how noisy my last relationship had been. One night after a run, a few of us grabbed smoothies. There were no sparks flying across the room, no dramatic music, no destiny, just peace. And somehow, that felt more dangerous to Daniel than anything else could have. Because people like him can feel when the center of your life has shifted away from them, even before they have proof. About 2.5 weeks after the lobby incident, Daniel came to my office. Not a message, not a letter, not a staged coincidence. My office. My receptionist messaged me first. Yeah, there's a man here asking for you, she wrote. He says he's your boyfriend and wants to drop off something personal. Boyfriend. That word landed harder than it should have. Like he was rewriting the present in real time, trying to anchor himself into a version of my life that no longer existed. I stood up slowly, already feeling that familiar tightening in my chest. Not panic, not fear. Something sharper. Anticipation. I walked down to the lobby but stayed behind the glass doors. He was standing there in a cream sweater I used to love on him, holding a silver gift box tied with a navy ribbon. Everything about it was calculated. Soft colors, neutral expression, no visible anger. The role of the reasonable man. I didn't open the door. I turned to reception instead. Please let him know he needs to leave, I said. If he refuses, call building security. Daniel looked up the moment he heard my voice through the narrow gap. I brought something important, he said, stepping closer. Your grandfather's watch. That stopped me for exactly 1 second. Because yes, there had been a watch. An old piece my grandfather wore every day. But it was already in my safe at home, exactly where it had always been. This wasn't about the watch. It was a test, a memory test. Proof that he believed saying the right emotional detail could still make me step forward. It's in my safe, I said evenly. Leave the building. Something flickered across his face. Not sadness, not hurt. Frustration. He set the gift box on the front desk and walked out without another word. I waited until he was gone before stepping forward. Inside the box, not the watch. Of course not. It was a bundle of old birthday cards I had written him, tied together with ribbon, and a note. You once knew how to love me without keeping score. I took a picture of it. just like everything else. That night, I got a Venmo request, $420. The note read, "Shared memories, shared expenses." I stared at my phone for a long second. Then I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Apparently, memories now came with an invoice. The request included part of a beach trip he had insisted on taking the year before, plus something labeled emotional effort. I declined it and wrote, "We are financially settled. Do not contact me again." 10 minutes later, one of our mutual friends texted me, "Hey, Daniel's telling people you kicked him out and threw away all his stuff." I didn't respond with emotion. I responded with evidence. I sent 2 screenshots. One of his January message telling me not to wait for him. One from the lobby. "If our memories meant anything, you'd let me come back." The reply came almost immediately. "Oh, yeah, he didn't mention that." Exactly. That Sunday, I made a mistake. A small one, but enough. I told Ethan and a few people from the running group that I liked going to Freedom Park early in the mornings. Quiet. Empty. Peaceful. I forgot something. Someone in that group had met Daniel once, months ago, at a holiday party. That was all it took. I was halfway around the loop with Ethan when I saw him. Daniel, standing near the lake railing, wearing the denim jacket from one of our earliest photos together, holding a paper cup from the bakery we used to stop at after walks. He smiled when he saw me, like this was fate. Ethan noticed immediately. "Do you want me to go?" he asked quietly. I shook my head. "No, stay." We kept walking. Daniel stepped directly into our path. "I just wanted to return something," he said. "Something that belongs to a memory we both share." "Move," I said. He glanced at Ethan. That quick, measuring look. The kind people give when they're deciding how much of a threat someone is. Then he smiled. "You replaced 4 years pretty fast." Ethan didn't react. Didn't engage. He just stepped slightly closer to me and waited. Steady. Present. That alone said more than anything Daniel could stage. "This is exactly why you need to stop," I said. For a second, Daniel's face did something strange. It crumpled and hardened at the same time. Almost impressive. He held out the coffee. "This was your favorite order," he said softly. "I thought if you tasted it, you'd remember." And that was it. That was the moment something in me shut off completely. Not out of anger. Not out of cruelty. But because it had crossed into something absurd. A relationship was not a haunted house he could walk me back through, room by room, hoping I'd get lost and forget how I got out. I took out my phone. "I'm asking you once, clearly, to leave me alone," I said. "If you continue contacting me or showing up where I am, I will file a harassment report." His voice rose immediately. "So that's what this is? You find some random guy and suddenly everything we had is disposable?" A park security officer started walking toward us. I hadn't even noticed him before. Daniel saw him, swore under his breath, dropped the coffee into the trash can, and walked away quickly without another word. Ethan exhaled beside me. "Was that normal for him?" he asked. I looked at the empty path where Daniel had been standing. "No," I said, "it used to be subtler." That evening, I did what Trevor had been telling me to do for over a week. I filed a police report for harassment. Not because I thought they would arrest him over postcards and staged encounters, but because paper matters, timelines matter, patterns matter. I included everything. Lobby footage, office incident, envelopes, voicemail, message to my mother, the park confrontation, the concierge incident log, every piece of it. 2 nights later, Daniel left a voicemail that changed everything. "You can keep blocking me, Stella," he said, "but I can still see your living room light from the street." My hand went cold around my phone. "You always leave that lamp on," he continued, "the one by the bookshelf." That one, that line, that was when it stopped being sad, stopped being manipulative, and became something else entirely. Surveillance. That voicemail changed the temperature of everything. Up until that point, I had been dealing with something exhausting, invasive, emotionally manipulative, but still, in some distant way, familiar. This wasn't familiar. This was him telling me, casually, that he could see inside my life, from the outside. I replayed the message once, then again, not because I didn't understand it, because I needed to hear it clearly enough to accept what it meant. He wasn't trying to reconnect anymore. He was watching. I sent the recording to Trevor immediately. He called me within 5 minutes. His tone had changed. Up until then, he had been measured, practical, calm. Now he sounded sharp. "Okay," he said. "We're done treating this like a breakup problem." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. "We're moving to legal containment," he continued. "I'm drafting a cease and desist tonight." "How much?" I asked automatically. $400, he said. "And it's the best money you're going to spend this year." He wasn't wrong. The letter went out the next morning. Certified mail. Email. Every formal channel available. Clear language. No ambiguity. No emotion. Cease all contact. No physical presence near my home, my workplace, or known locations. No indirect communication through friends, family, or third parties. A line had been drawn, and for a moment, just a moment, I wondered if that would be enough. It wasn't. 48 hours later, he violated it. Not directly. Through his mother. Mrs. Parker called me at 7:12 p.m. I almost didn't answer, but something in me needed to know. Her voice was tired. Not defensive, not aggressive, just tired. I'm not calling to defend him, she said immediately. I'm calling because he's telling me you're exaggerating, and I need to know if that's true. I leaned back against my kitchen counter, staring at the wall like the answer might be written there. It's not, I said. There was a pause. Can I ask you something? She said carefully. Yes. Did he really say he could see your apartment from the street? I closed my eyes for a second. Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. Then a quiet exhale. I'm so sorry, she said. You do whatever you need to do. Unexpected ally. Number 2. We didn't speak again after that. We didn't need to. The next morning, Trevor filed for a protective order. Everything moved quickly after that. Paperwork. Dates. Documentation. I spent an entire evening organizing everything into a black accordion folder like I was preparing for a presentation at work. Tabs. Labels. Printed screenshots. Camera stills. Voicemail transcripts. Mail receipts. Call logs. It was almost surreal how something that had once been emotional and personal had turned into something structured and procedural. But that structure held. That was what I needed. Not closure. Order. The hearing was scheduled 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of quiet. No messages. No letters. No staged appearances. Which somehow felt more unsettling than everything that came before. Because silence from someone like Daniel didn't feel like peace. It felt like waiting. The morning of the hearing, I woke up before my alarm. Not nervous. Not exactly. Focused. I got dressed slowly. Chose something simple. Neutral. Nothing that felt like armor. Nothing that felt like performance. Just myself. Trevor met me outside the courthouse. He glanced at the folder in my hands and gave a small nod. Good, he said. We're not here to win emotionally. We're here to be clear. I know, I said. Inside, everything felt strangely ordinary. People sitting, waiting, quiet conversations, life continuing, even in the middle of things that felt final. Then Daniel walked in, navy shirt, clean lines, minimal expression, composed. He looked like he was attending a meeting, not a hearing about his own behavior. He didn't look at me at first. Then he did, just briefly, like he was checking to see if I would react. I didn't. When the case was called, everything narrowed. Trevor spoke first. Calm. Direct. He walked through the timeline like it was exactly what it was. A pattern, not a moment. Not a misunderstanding. A pattern. He handed over the documentation. Dates. Messages. Photos. Voicemail transcripts. Every piece placed exactly where it needed to be. Daniel's attorney took a different approach. Softer. Carefully worded. He described the situation as an emotionally complicated breakup. He used phrases like unresolved feelings, attempts to reconnect, shared history. That phrase again, shared history, as if the past was something that could override the present. He said Daniel had never intended to threaten me, that the gifts, the letters, the appearances were gestures meant to honor what we had shared, not intimidate, not control. Just remember, I sat there and listened, didn't interrupt, didn't react, because I had already heard all of it before, just in different words. Then the judge spoke. She was probably in her late 50s, calm, focused, the kind of presence that didn't need to raise its voice to hold a room still. She flipped through the documents briefly, paused at certain points, read a few lines silently. Then she looked up. Did the respondent continue contacting her after being clearly told to stop? She asked. Trevor answered, Yes, Your Honor, and handed over the timeline. The judge read a few entries aloud. The lobby message, the urgent care voicemail, the office incident, the message to my mother, the park confrontation, and finally, the line about my living room light. She looked over her glasses at Daniel and said very simply, Memories do not override boundaries. Once someone tells you to stop, you stop. That was it. No long speech. No dramatic moment. Just clarity. Clean. Final. That sentence settled everything. Not emotionally. Not in the way movies pretend things resolve. But structurally. Legally. Permanently. When it was Daniel's turn to speak, he shifted. The composure stayed, but something underneath it cracked just enough to show through. He said he had been hurt. Confused. that he didn't understand how something that lasted 4 years could be discarded so easily. He said he was trying to fix something meaningful, that he wasn't dangerous, that he was desperate. Then he looked at me, not the way he had before, not testing, not calculating, searching. Like if he could just catch something in my face, regret, hesitation, anything, he could still reframe the entire situation. I just wanted her to remember who we were, he said. I didn't respond, didn't shift, didn't give him anything to work with. Because I finally understood something I hadn't been able to articulate before. He didn't want me to remember. He wanted me to return, and those were not the same thing. The judge listened without interrupting. Then she made her decision. The protective order was granted. 1 year, no contact. No physical proximity within 300 feet of my home, my workplace, or any known locations I frequented. No indirect contact through friends or family. No digital communication. No loopholes. Trevor leaned slightly toward me and whispered, "That's solid." I nodded. Not relieved. Not exactly. Just steady. Outside the courtroom, everything felt strangely quiet. Like the air had shifted, but the world hadn't caught up yet. I walked down the steps slowly, aware of my own breathing in a way I hadn't been in weeks. Daniel came out a few minutes later. I felt him before I saw him. That familiar awareness of someone standing just close enough to matter. I turned slightly. He was looking at me, not speaking. Just looking, like he was waiting. For what? I don't know. An apology. A reconsideration. A crack. Something. Anything. I held his gaze for a second. Then I turned. Walked to my car. Got in. Closed the door. And for the first time in over a month, my shoulders dropped. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just enough to notice. A week later, I got the promotion. Senior operations lead. 18% raise. A larger team. More responsibility. More movement. The kind of forward motion that doesn't feel loud, but changes everything. Ethan and I kept seeing each other. Slowly. Deliberately. Like adults. No games. No tests hidden inside questions. No emotional puzzles disguised as conversations. Just time. One night after dinner, he texted me, "Hey, made it home safe. Had a really good time tonight." I stared at that message longer than I probably should have. Not because it was complicated. Because it wasn't. That was the difference. No weight. No strategy. No subtext. Just a simple. I remember thinking, this is what normal feels like. Not intensity. Not obsession. Not someone trying to recreate a feeling instead of building something real. Just steadiness. 3 months passed. Then 4. The condo felt like mine again. Not shared. Not haunted by objects placed with intention. Just mine. The hall closet was empty. The 2 storage bins Daniel left behind were gone. Handled properly. Documented. Disposed of after the legal holding period. Not out of anger. Out of order. That mattered to me now. Order. My mom still brings it up sometimes. Usually in the form of, "Thank God you never married that man." She's not wrong. Mrs. Parker sent one email through Trevor's office after the hearing. Short. Simple. "I'm sorry for my son's behavior. I hope you have peace." I appreciated that. As for Daniel, I hear things. Secondhand. Because cities are big until they aren't. Apparently, he tells different versions of the story depending on who's listening. In one, I weaponized the legal system. In another, I was emotionally cold. In another, he was the one who lost everything. There are quotes, too, vague ones, about people erasing years like they meant nothing, about love not being enough, about closure. That's fine. People tell themselves whatever story they need to survive their own behavior. I don't need to correct it, because I know what happened. And more importantly, I know what didn't. I didn't erase our memories. I didn't pretend those 4 years didn't exist. We laughed. We built routines. We took trips. We loved each other in the way we knew how at the time. All of that was real. But a memory is a record, not a contract. It proves something happened. It does not obligate you to reopen the door. It does not give someone access to your time, your space, or your peace just because they miss having it. That was the part Daniel never understood. He thought if he stacked enough moments in front of me, the right photo, the right song, the right place, the right version of himself, I would confuse nostalgia with responsibility, that I would step back into a role I had already walked out of. He was wrong. Because once you see someone using the past to control the present, you can't unsee it. And that clarity, that was the real ending. Not closure. Not revenge. Understanding. Now, when I think about memories, I think of them the way they were always meant to be. Places I've been, not places I'm required to live forever.